This is Matt Riley, my well partner Doug Lark.
How are you, sir? Nice to meet you.
Sorry. Well, Danny, how do you feel?
Well, it's
Oh, back. When they do, they like to talk.
You're going to be able to do something I wished I could be able to do.
Hello, who is this?
200 years ago, in which a royal governor of Boston wanted to send a man to
it's a mystery, just as well it's a mystery of why I'm here in Texas. And I can only say that England, as far as we know, started this push. I have a suspicion, it may not be correct, but I belong to a radio program in New York which was based on a type of Radio Free Europe, and we made it a point to counteract vicious British propaganda which has been circulated through the press in this country regarding events in Northeast Ireland. And on one occasion the British consulate called up Fordham University objecting to some things we said on that radio. They were offered equal time to rebut, if they wished, what we had said, but they were not satisfied with that. They ignored rebutting us. But then about 5 months ago I got a very important piece of information sent to me from England that the planned invasion of the city of Derry had been blueprinted and was set to take place at such and such a time. I spread the word as quickly as I could, and we understand, although the British have remained very silent on it, that the invasion didn't take place because it spoiled the plans and paratroopers were to be dropped, etc., on the city which already had been massacred by paratroopers. And it was not too long after that that I received a blank subpoena at my house to be in Texas within 5 days to appear before a grand jury. I broadcasted on WFUV radio to all the listeners and circulated among the different Irish clubs throughout New York City. And apparently the word got around, and it got back to England, that this proposed invasion might take place, and it would be just as outrageous as what happened in Prague when the Russians came in and invaded the Czechoslovak city and created such havoc and fear and terror. And I think that anybody who has been to Northeast Ireland, like Congressman Lester Wolf and Mario Biaggi and Ogden Reed of New York, and you could interview them if you ever wish to, and incidentally Congressman Bingham will tell you exactly what is going on in Northeast Ireland. I believe that for having broadcast that information, I was a marked man from that night, and that perhaps with the new proposed invasion coming up, they wanted me out of the way in case I got a contact again. And this, incidentally, was said to be leaked from inside British intelligence sources. England, I believe, has fooled the United States. They have clever, cunning agents in this country. They have wormed their way into the confidence of the highest places in the United States. And I have no doubt at all but that the railroading which was done, bringing us down to Texas, I have never been in Texas in my life. I have had no contact with anybody in Texas except one individual, and I hope he doesn't get a subpoena over it. His name is Lyndon Baines Johnson. I wrote a letter to him, a political question I wish to have answered about 2 years ago, and he was kind enough to answer my question. That's the only contact I have ever had with Texas in my life. To document that Jefferson left this country.
Have you a quote to leave with?
Most of medicine has been engaged primarily at looking at sick people. We don't look at normal people because we're spending all our time looking at sick people. The emphasis today needs to be, and it is more and more, on how do we keep people well, not how do we treat sick people. How do we keep people well? That's what's going to make you live longer, and that's what's going to make your life different as a human being walking here on the surface of the earth. That's what's important to us for our crewmen in space. It's vital to us.
We keep talking about people having apathy. It's just that the Mexican American, when they say, well, he doesn't vote. Well, he has nothing to vote for, because he doesn't have anything. In other words, if I have holes, if I have substandard housing, and if I'm poor, and if I'm unemployed, well, why should I go vote for the same thing? So we're talking about a change. We're talking about a political impact where people can vote for something that we can change about. No question in my mind that the attitude nos dicen allá en forward que vengo a buscarlos a ver si están diferentes. Is very smart.
Local reels.
Not operate that thing. Say hello.
You're in the press already.
Right here, right here.
How are you, gentlemen? Well, we might as well stop here and talk to the press a minute. I guess.
Mr. Vice President.
Vice President,
The big question is, will it be
The Vice President arrived 2 hours late, delayed earlier today by a minor accident on the runway at National Airport in Washington. He spoke earlier this afternoon in San Antonio to the National Defense Transportation Association, where he called Senator George McGovern frighteningly naive about negotiating with the Soviet Union. After shaking hands with a small crowd at the airport, Mr. Agnew focused on the administration's stand on the release of American prisoners of war. Agnew will spend the night in Arlington and speak to the National Association of Retired Federal Employees in Fort Worth tomorrow morning. Addressing the same group tomorrow will be George McGovern and R. Sergeant Shriver. Jim Green, Channel 8 News on the...
Commissioner Skeet Richardson called 2 weeks ago for each member of the court to place a personal representative on the board of directors at Lena Pope Home. Following a week's contemplation, the court decided that to add more people to the 40-member board would be of no advantage, so they wanted their representatives to replace current members of the board. Well, another week has passed now, and this morning the court voted to name 5 people to that board, with a stipulation that if any of them was rejected by the home, they would all be considered rejected. There apparently were those in the courtroom this morning who accused the court of a bit of political tomfoolery. So County Judge Howard Green and Commissioners Jerry Mabus and Dick Anderson held a separate session here in Green's office in the courthouse just before lunch. They decided they'd name as their representatives people already serving on the board. The names of the appointees will probably come out tomorrow, although they were not to have been named until next Monday. Commissioner Dick Lewis, who reacted most vociferously in calling for an investigation of the home by commissioners, told me this morning he hasn't had time yet to get by for a visit. Jerry Taft, Channel 8 News on the Move at the courthouse in Fort Worth.
We have had a request from a member of Congress to look into the various aspects of the Postal Service here in Texas since the major reorganization of the Postal Service.
Is the Dallas region selected?
My answer to that would be that as Dallas being one of the major centers in the state will certainly be considered, but as yet it has not been officially selected.
How soon would you expect to get down to investigating this complaint?
I hope within the next several weeks, as soon as we can get a staff to undertake the project.
And what do you anticipate the outcome to be?
That sort of information, Jim, why we can't make available.
This neighborhood in East Dallas has, in the past 6 months, been the scene of a rape, a murder, and a burglary, as well as a number of other crimes. Today, 3 of those cases are on the way to being solved. Hosa Lee McNeil, shown here in custody of Dallas police officers, was arrested yesterday afternoon as he carried away a bedspread filled with appliances and other loot taken from the home of last Saturday's rape victim. This morning, the 35-year-old ex-convict was taken into detective's office for questioning and charged with the April murder of 80-year-old Mrs. Irene Brackett and the rape and burglary of a 69-year-old woman, Mrs. Mabel Stilley. Policemen told me that they never could have caught the man without the help of the people of the neighborhood. One neighbor flagged down a patrolman after seeing a strange man enter the Stilley home. And 2 boys pointed out a man whom they said ran from this house later. And the victim had engraved her appliances with police computer identification numbers. For Channel 8 News on the Move, this is Judy Hanna.
There are changes to be made in our laws that will permit the law enforcement officials, the court officials, and the correctional officials to function more effectively. Please become aware of what those legislative changes are that we are talking about now, understand them, and those which you feel will make the criminal justice system more effective, support those and support them strongly.
Well, it's been my position consistently that Hanoi is using a handful of POWs to raise the hopes of the many American families who have boys who are prisoners of war in Vietnam, and that they are just exploiting these few people for their own propaganda gains. Now, if they were really serious about the prisoners, they'd adhere to the Geneva Conventions, and they'd allow the International Red Cross to inspect these prisoners as has been customary, and they would deal with the duly elected government of the United States instead of with every dissident anti-war group who is attempting to make the contact on behalf of mainly of themselves more than of the prisoners, in my judgment.
I think in one sense I have a unique qualification, having worked in the executive branch, the White House, Justice Department, United States District Attorney, and also being able to know members on both sides of the aisle. I would say I probably know more than Mr. Tower does after 11 years there.
If he, however, presents to us credible facts and information, or where we can get credible facts and information that Senator Tower is violating the law, we're going to investigate it, and we're going to treat Senator Tower just the same way as we would anybody else.